Yeah.
Okay. So Gavin Newsom said this thing 2 nights ago. I think it was third Tuesday night, part of his book tour. It suggested compared Israel to an apartheid state, and even the New York Times noticed this and said Newsom's typically been very supportive of Israel. And is this, they speculated, is this just an attempt to curry favor with the left? John Fetterman did not like it at all and called it out. Here's John Fetterman criticizing Gavin Newsom on News Nation 110, please.
And that's another truth here about the Democratic Party. We're coming more and more anti-Israel. You know, Governor Newsom announced, now he just described Israel as an apartheid state. I mean, that's a talking point of the fringe of my party. And that's profoundly disappointing. I mean, I was shocked. I mean, overall, okay. I mean, he might be more liberal, but I never thought
he says it's from the fringe, but I would argue that that's something said by lots of Democrats, including the kind of thing that's said by one of the Democratic Party's leading thinkers on national security issues. 130, please.
Well, listen, I think we're seeing this pattern, right? Trump has impulsively went in on Venezuela. He impulsively went in on Iran. There was no exit and no end game for either of these situations. It led to increased global instability everywhere he goes. And every time he's done that, it has been consistent with a spike or a revelation in what is happening with the Epstein files. I don't think that coincidence is something to dismiss off the cuff. I think that he feels existentially tied to it. And I actually think that it is one reason that he must be removed from office, because if the Epstein files has such a hold on President Trump and this administration that they are willing to plunge us and risk world war in order to save themselves politically, that is a person, the definition of someone that cannot make objective decisions for the American people.
Larry, I think in the end, Democratic criticism of the war and of the president and of Republicans will not be Epstein, will not be Israel. It will be he's focused on a foreign war that's costing us a lot of money and raising our gas prices when he said he'd focus on affordability. What do you think of these various Democratic
that would be the smart approach, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, but what stuck out to me, other than the impeccable pronunciation of Venezuela, was the fact that she says this is why he needs to be removed from office. I mean, listen, one of the most effective arguments for the Republicans in the midterms is that if you give them the gavel, it will be nothing but impeachment for 2 years if you really want Congress to do something. And so, and she's not hiding it. That is the fact of the matter. You don't remove a president because you disagree with his foreign policy or national security. How it factors in terms of the whether it is fringe or not to outwardly and align yourself with people who are at the most generous way anti-Israel and, frankly, in my opinion, for the most part, anti-Semitic. We shall see. Gavin Newsom is actually doing a podcast in New Hampshire this week with a guy who has been, there's no other way to describe it, but anti-Semitic. And will this be a Sister Souljah moment, or is this where the mainstream of the party is now? I know that MAGA has their own, concerns here and soft spots, and people will point to Tucker Carlson. They will point to other podcasters. They're not the governor of California, and they're not the leading candidates for the nomination for president. Yeah. We are not the same on this.
Yeah, no one can tell how the midterms are going to be affected by the war. Nobody. On the current trajectory, it could go either way. It could be a huge victory that people rally around Republican support for the war and punish Democrats for opposing it, or it could raise gas prices and lead to, a quagmire. Nobody knows. What we do know, ladies and gentlemen, as a snapshot of where we are right now in the polling, Republicans would lose a lot of seats in the House, and today I think would lose the Senate. Not Texas, but they'd lose Iowa and Ohio.
Mark.
They would today. Based on the polling that I've seen, they would. Now, there's plenty of time. Things could change. But right now, it would be a wipeout based on what I've seen.
I'm ready to take that bet right now.
And the Texas results, people are focusing on the high turnout on the Democratic side, which is not nothing, although it's not dispositive. Kevin, the bigger thing that people are talking to me about is the Hispanic vote. that the Hispanic vote is overwhelmingly back with the Democrats. And of course, Texas is a big Hispanic state. But ladies and gentlemen, just as every state is an ag state, every state is a big marijuana state, every state's a big Hispanic vote state now. Every state. And so, Kevin, are you hearing what I'm hearing? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? That right now as a snapshot, Republicans are in a lot of trouble for the midterms.
They are, and you look at the numbers. I mean, the Hispanic vote turnout has more than nearly doubled since 4 years ago in the last primary that we had, and it's notable that you didn't have a leading Hispanic on the ballot for this primary. It was between a black woman and a white man. So to see that level of engagement, I think is giving Democrats a lot of hope. Obviously, too, giving us a lot of hope down the ballot in those congressional districts that were drawn on the strong numbers that the president posted with Hispanics for 2024. And the fact that so many of those lines were drawn around those population centers based on their turnout for the president, I think is also giving Democrats some hope that of those 5 seats that the president demanded, they're going to be competitive for Democrats if we field the right candidates.
Larry, are you worried about the midterms for the Republicans?
I'm worried about the House. I've said, listen, historically, if the Republicans don't lose the majority in the House, that would be historically an aberration. Of course,
it would be huge if they don't. It would be huge if they don't.
But again, we're going from +7 now to +30 potentially.
I don't see that. Again, I want to see what the final map looks like, but I don't see that. Virginia is still a question as to whether that redistricting is going to go through.
And the Voting Rights Act.
And the Voting Rights Act.
I push back more on the notion of the Senate. Kevin, do you see the Democrats winning the majority in the Senate without winning Texas, Iowa, and Ohio?
No, well, mathematically they can't. They got to win 2 of those, but I think they'll win 2 of those today.
I don't think so.
They'd win 2 of those today. They would today.
And news out of Montana too. I mean, we've got a strong independent candidate that announced as well.
Let's talk about Montana. We should have showed it yesterday, but we just didn't have time. There's this independent candidate, as Kevin said, in Montana. Incredible resume. Seems like a very skilled guy. And now the Republicans have done this insider switcheroo. The incumbent, Mr. Daines, announced at the very last second before the filing closed that he wasn't running, and they put in a candidate who magically got the endorsement of Trump and Daines right away. But it opens the door to the messaging for the independent. Democrats have to decide whether to run their own candidate or to support the independent, but it opens the door to the independents' message being the insiders are trying to steal the seat, right? So we won't go into great detail. Here's the headline from Politico. Daines announces he will not seek re-election again. It was an inside job. He basically said, "I'm going to pick my successor by not letting anybody else know they need to follow." There's some other Republicans on the ballot, but the handpicked guy is going to be the nominee. Quickly, what is we'll do it, McLaughlin. 0 meaning no chance and 10 meaning ontological certitude. What is the chance that Republicans hold this seat? Larry O'Connor.
7.
7 seems low. Kevin.
You took my 2 points on Iran, and now you're taking. I was going to say 7 too. That the GOP holds the seat. The guy that they're running, the U.S. attorney, has never run for anything before.
The correct answer is 9.
Wow.
9.
Kevin,
he's never
quickly,
run, but doesn't matter. It's Montana.
If this independent candidate, if he had known what was going to happen, would he have run as a Republican? Is he that kind of independent, or is he an independent who's actually a Democrat?
He's kind of a blank slate.
Yeah, blank slate. He was teasing this run 2 months ago, I think, as well, that he wanted to do this as an independent, his own guy, Green Beret.
Let me ask you another way.
President of the university.
If he wins, who will he caucus with?
The Democrats, I think. And I think the Democrats are going to support him.
Hey, want to be part of the two-way community all the time? Hit the subscribe button. Great video clips like this, plus conversations like no other, full episodes, and more, always available on this channel. You got to hit subscribe to never miss a thing.
You can now listen to full episodes of The Morning Meeting and Two Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.